So related to this first language acquisition, in the last class also I told you about I think critical period hypothesis, critical period, or critical period hypothesis, and especially in the linguistic literature, if you are aware of this critical period, so many people, whether it's Eric Lenneberg, so there are many things. Let's say in support of critical period, then not supporting critical period, so you have supporting evidence for critical period, you have then counter evidence for critical period. So what is this critical period for language acquisition, or only is there a critical period for first language acquisition, or even there is a critical period for second language as well? So these are the questions we need to keep in mind when you talk about critical period. So what is that critical period? I think I told you briefly what is the critical period. So just can one of you tell me what is that critical period I mentioned in the last class?
Sir, it's a period in which an individual can acquire a first language
Yeah,
if
so
presented with adequate stimuli.
mhm. But there we are talking about Lokesh, we are talking about some age, let's say. So that critical period somewhere starts, let's say somewhere 2 years, 2 years to 12 years, or till puberty, because puberty is also related term. Either it could be 12 years, 14 years, or 15 years. So let's say before puberty. So Eric Lenneberg, 13 to 14 years. It depends. Let's say depends on also different places, locations as well. And so, but it's related. You see, that's what we are talking about. So the understanding is that many people they believe
Sir,
that yes,
does it?
Pragya. Pragya, I think my voice is fine so far. Maybe the network connection issue is from your side, Pragya, because I have this today. I have Wi-Fi connection is there, so I think there is no problem. I'm joined by Wi-Fi, so I think all of you are listening. Let's say whatever I'm saying. Pragya is saying that she is not able to listen to me. I think okay. So this is where when we are talking about critical period, and so they say that there is a kind of cerebral plasticity in the brain or mind, whatever you talk about, cerebral plasticity, and that time the brain is also developing, and it is also easier for the children to acquire that particular kind of language. And what happens also at times, what happens, let's say if there are certain things that are happening in the left hemisphere, even the cerebral plasticity can take place in the right hemisphere also. The right hemisphere also can take over. Okay, and in support of so to say this critical period hypothesis, we had seen that people say that especially young children, they are very good at learning second language. Young children, if you're talking about in support of critical period hypothesis, uh, this is the period 2 to 14 years or 15 years, whatever you say. So in the linguistic literature, we'll see that many people, they're supporting this critical period, and there are some people they do not support the critical period. They want to provide some kind of counter evidence to this, so to say, this critical period hypothesis. You see, and then what happened, and this is really interesting case, the case of Ginny. And the Ginny's case is, it's a really famous case. And when this Ginny's case, came into picture, so it also questioned the whole critical period hypothesis. You see, and we later on we learned that even Ginny, after the critical period, also she could learn American English, the way other children they learn, or they acquire a particular language. So today's class, mainly this is what I want to talk about, this critical period hypothesis, and what kind of evidence we do have in support of critical period, and let's say what kind of evidence we do have for, let's say, counter evidence we do have for critical period as well. And the famous case, the Genius case, and what can we can we, kind of conclusion, what conclusion can be drawn from Ginny's case, as well as what kind of understanding we do have when we talk about critical period, as well as, let's say, universal grammar. Is there any kind of understanding, from critical period and universal grammar? And is there any critical period for second language learning as well? Is it only for first language, applicable for first language, or only also for second language? Or critical period, or is there any critical period for that matter, or there is no critical period? So trying to question everything, it's not something what is being written, we have to follow it, as if like it is written in the Bible. Even that can be questioned, or whatever the religious doctrine, any religious doctrine. So critical period and its role, so we'll try to look at, from that kind of perspective, scientific perspective. Okay, so now talking about critical period, the hypothesis, and I think whenever you say hypothesis, it says that somewhere that after about age of 14, so we lose the plasticity of our brains. So plasticity, and this is the term, especially in neurolinguistics or language, mind, and brain, we do use, cerebral plasticity. I do not know whether you are aware of this term or not, but we do use cerebral plasticity. So plasticity is basically the flexibility of the brain here. If some of the tissues, some of the things are damaged, let's say, other tissues or other neurons can come into picture. All those axons, dendrons, soma, or whatever. So the names of the neurons and others. So they can take over. So they say that we lose the plasticity of our brains, and this makes the task of learning another language very difficult after the age of 14. So after puberty, so it is very difficult to learn a second language. So that is the hypothesis. And Eric Lenneberg is one of the famous figure, if you are talking about especially this field, the biological foundation of language. That's what tries to relate language to biology, trying to look at language in the brain itself. So Eric Lenneberg, so that's the famous book, Biological Foundations of Language. So Eric Lenneberg suggests that the ability to learn language disappears after a point in early teen years. So that means after even that age is talking about. And suggests that, propose that, you see, that language acquisition must take place during a critical period extending from about age 2 to puberty. So somewhere around age 2 to puberty, and some people say that it's not only 2, maybe 1 year, or at times, let's say, from children's birth to puberty, you see. And and another, let's say, related to this critical period hypothesis, the understanding, let's say, is that the end of critical period corresponds to the completion of lateralization process. Lateralization process, when you're talking about lateralization process, is basically the location of the language center in the left hemisphere. So you must have heard about, localization of language. And localization of language, when you're talking about localization of language, is basically localization of language in the left hemisphere. And if you remember, especially in the left hemisphere, there are different areas, different areas, whether you talk about Broca's area, Wernicke's area, arcuate fasciculus, angular gyrus, whichever the place I am talking about. So it is basically somewhere in the left hemisphere. So it says that the end of critical period corresponds to the completion of lateralization process. So language is already fixed somewhere in the left hemisphere. So the location of language centers in the left hemisphere. So somewhere, if you are talking about language is not in the right hemisphere, language is in the left hemisphere in the brain. And we have lots of, in the localization view, if you're talking about, especially in neurolinguistics, language, mind, and brain, so that course also we teach in the department, you see. And so we know that, so lateralization process and all. Okay, so the claim for critical period, what I have already told you. So what are the supporting evidence for critical period? And so now what happened that during this time, both hemispheres are involved to some extent in language, and one can take over if the other is damaged. So something like what is happening, as I already told you, that the plasticity factor, plasticity of the brain, especially that time in the initial stage. So what happens, let's say localization thing, even let's say left hemisphere, because of some reasons, left hemisphere is damaged. So the right hemisphere can take over the lateralization, whole lateralization process because of the cerebral plasticity, as I already told you. But after this critical period, the lateralization process is not possible. It's very, very difficult basically, because the maturation of the, especially the brain cells, have already taken place. So that is the understanding. So the cerebral plasticity, what we are talking about, so the cerebral plasticity, the flexibility in neurological organization is there at the critical period. As I told you, the flexibility of the neurological organization at the critical period. And especially if you look at the young children. On the other hand, if you're talking about adults, the flexibility won't be there, you see. So the evidence for this, so to say, the critical period, so what they have done, the children suffering a damage in left hemisphere are able to transfer the language centers to the right brain and to reacquire the linguistic skills with little disruption. So try to understand that. So in support of the critical period is that because of the cerebral plasticity is there, so even if lateralization process is taking place in the left hemisphere, and if let's say in that particular stage, if it is damaged, so right hemisphere can take over because it is happening at the time of the critical period, in initial stage. Okay. So also the evidence, the children suffering aphasia, as you know, that different kind of language related disorder. So children suffering different aphasia before puberty have much more rapid and complete recovery than do the older children. So even some children, if they're suffering in aphasia, other language related disorder, so the especially the recovery rate is like very, very rapid. But if it is the children after puberty, after this critical period, then this recovery rate is not rapid, you see. So this is one of the evidence is given in support of the cerebral plasticity, what we are talking about, or critical period. So other evidence, especially in support of critical period, they are telling that especially young children are excellent second language learners, while their parents, let's say, can struggle years with a new language for years without fully mastering it. So parents or adults for that matter, you see. So let's say try to understand, let's say some young children and along with their parents migrated to USA or UK, and you will see that especially the young children, they may learn either UK variety of English or US variety of English, and maybe they can speak English, either the UK variety or the US variety in the similar manner, the way there, especially in UK, people speak English or which. But on the other hand, if you're talking about their parents, so they may not speak the way young children, they have mastered the language, you see. So that is another evidence that young children are excellent second language learners in compared to the adults, let's say. So, and this is exactly happens, you see. We had seen that especially young children, they can learn the language, especially the second language if we're talking about, easily also in compared to the adults. So this is one of the evidence. So that's the supporting evidence for critical period hypothesis as well. Now, let's say this is what the supporting evidence, as I told you, and now counter evidence for critical period. So the counter evidence for critical period, this is really, try to see that how people generally, whatever is being said, so many people have that kind of understanding that yes, I'm going to accept it. But some people, they do challenge the existing view. So what they say earlier, that because of the cerebral plasticity, the right hemisphere can take over. They said it, in support of the critical period. Now, so those many neurosurgeons working in this area, so what they did, this hemispherectomy. Hemispherectomy is basically surgical removal of one of the hemispheres before 5 months of age. So they have removed one of the hemispheres, basically the left hemispheres, at the especially 5 months of age. So they removed the left hemisphere, and as a result, as they have suggested earlier evidence that the right hemisphere can take over because of the cerebral plasticity or kind of flexibility in the brain, but somehow it did not take place. The hemispherectomy, as I was talking about, So, though language acquisition was taken over by right hemisphere, to some extent the language acquisition was taken over by right hemisphere. The language of the child was inferior in compare with the normal child. So it is not exactly. So now if you compare, especially the language acquisition process of the child whose left hemisphere was removed, and let's say the child who has both the hemispheres intact, so as a result, you have lots of problems, especially for the child whose left hemisphere was removed. Okay, so that was again counter evidence for critical period. Now, one counter evidence for critical period, again, it is given by this dichotic listening. Dichotic listening, I do not know whether you are aware of this dichotic listening. Anyone's, because in neurolinguistics we talk about dichotic listening. Anyone, any idea of dichotic listening? If anyone have read somewhere, any idea about dichotic listening?
Yes,
Rupali?
sir.
Rupali? Yes, go ahead,
Yes,
Rupali.
sir. I have read in my graduation about dichotic listening.
Yes. So tell us something about it, Rupali, if you.
Yes, in dichotic listening, I have read about the test that took place.
Yeah. So just simply tell us what is
So
that.
there were earplugs plugged into in multiple individuals, and they were asked to hear two few words. In one ear, they had lengthy words, and in second one, they had like it's a kind of a auditory process. So in it, they were asked which words they were able. So most of them were not able to hear the words in the other ear, and some were not able to hear the words from the right ear.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Rupali. So I'll add something what you have said. Parul, you want to add something, Parul? Go ahead, Parul.
Sir, I just want to add what Rupali said. So, what people do in during that experiment, they speak set of words in left and right ears through earplugs, and it was noted that the people and they were asked to write down the words that they hear. So the people generally, most of those people wrote the words that were said in their right ear rather than left ear because of the literalization.
Yeah.
So that's
So lateralization, and not only lateralization process, it's a contralateralization process. So just I'll tell you this dichotic listening. I think Rupali and Parul has pointed out what is this, talking about the experiment. Let's say, see, try to remember that left hemisphere is responsible for language, and right hemisphere is not responsible for language. Right hemisphere is responsible for non-linguistic things. You see, non-linguistic things mainly. Let's say something like you are talking about barking of dogs, or mooing of cow, rooster, cock-a-doodle-doo, and all that kind of things. So all this is non-linguistic things. You see, linguistics, when you're talking about linguistic sounds, is the human things and all other stuff. You see. So And related to this, so what is happening when you are talking about dichotic listening? So two stimuli will be presented to you at the same time. Let's say one in the left ear and another in the right ear. Now, so which will be perceived first, let's say. So let's say, and this both the linguistic sounds in English, one is given in sky and another is, let's say, sky is presented in the left ear, and in the right ear we have presented pen. Try to understand this. Left ear we have presented sky, and in right ear we presented pen, and both the stimuli is given at the same time, and the person is asked that which sound the person has heard first, whether it is sky and pen. So can you just tell me which sound will the person hear, whether it is sky or pen?
So the pen.
Pen or sky? Anyone is saying in favor of sky? Okay, so the reason is pen because there is a contralateralization process going on, because as simple as that, because right ear going towards the left hemisphere, and let's say left ear going towards the right hemisphere. So what is happening? Sky is going to the right hemisphere and again coming back to the left hemisphere. So the path, whichever the path, is taking a little bit more, and that is the reason. When both the stimuli are presented at the same time, the person is somehow perceiving or listening the word pen a little early, or perceiving the word pen early. So this is where we're talking about linguistic sounds, and so pen will be recorded accurately before sky because of contralateralization, as I already told you. And the same way, let's say non-linguistic sounds, so whether it is left ear and right ear, so in one case barking of dogs, another case mooing of cow, let's say. So left ear, can you just simply tell me, let's say in left ear barking of dogs presented, and in right ear mooing of cow at the same time. So the person will hear which one, barking of dogs or mooing of cow?
Barking of dog.
Now try to understand that, because there's a contralateralization process going on, and this is not linguistic sound, it is non-linguistic sounds. So what will happen? The stimuli now presented in the left ear, because it is going to the right ear, and right ear process this non-linguistic sounds. And if the right ear, if you're talking about, it is presented in the right ear, it is going in the left hemisphere, and from left hemisphere it is coming back to the right hemisphere. Try to understand this, you see. So that's what so it is really interesting, because of contralateralization process. So stimuli presented in the left ear, so whichever the stimuli here is the barking of dogs, it is presented in the left ear, will be reported accurately than the right ear, because of the contralateralization process. And as I also told you that right hemisphere is responsible for non-linguistic sound, you see. So now really interesting to know that what we have so far understood, that so there is a left hemisphere dominance for language, and this left hemisphere dominance, you see, and we had seen also, especially if you look at the size of the fetus, especially the size of the left hemisphere in the fetus also is bigger than the right hemisphere. So we have also seen that. And even if you look at 1 week old child has left hemisphere preference for verbal stimuli, and so even 1 week child, somehow he or she has the preference for verbal stimuli in the left hemisphere, not in the right hemisphere. Okay, so so these are some kind of evidence, counter evidence in support of critical period in somehow counter evidence are presented. This is really interesting. So another counter evidence. So what we have already suggested that if you are talking about first language acquisition, so the children are very good at it. The first language acquisition, and also for second language acquisition, children are really good at learning the language. But counter evidence is presented that especially later on that yes, maybe to some extent children they do acquire the language, but if you're talking about the second language, I think adults, they are better in compared to the children. So learning language is not only about pronunciation. So we compare children's kind of ability of learning the language depending on to some extent their pronunciation, looking at the phonetics and phonology part. And if you're talking about language is not only about phonetics and phonology. Language is many more things. So adults are more aware of those other factors, whether you talk about the syntax, whether you talk about the pragmatics, and there are many other factors, you see. And so so now it appears that adults may not be good language learners, not due to cerebral maturation, but rather due to variety of factors. It's not only about critical period factors. Adults speakers may not be good language learners for critical period, but there are different other factors. There could be social, cultural, personality factors, motivations, attitudes. There are different reasons. Try to understand that. If a child or children, if they are learning language X or language Y, or for that matter, second language also, because these children do not have many things to do. Many things to do. What I'm saying is that most of the times, either they're talking, they're playing, they do not have to earn bread and butter. But the adults have many other things to do. Let's say, as the examples, as I was giving the immigrants example, shifted in UK or in USA for that matter. So what is happening there? Let's say the parents, immigrant parents, have lots of other things to do. So they do not or cannot kind of spend too much time in language learning. You can see that movie that I think English Winglish for that matter, that lady Sridevi, finally she goes to, you must have seen that movie. So she has many other household things to do. But on the other hand, let's say the children getting education and also used to going to school also, there are different factors for that. But parents not getting that kind of environment. So it's not, you cannot say that because of critical period, adults are not good language learners. Yes, to some extent, one of the factors could be if you're talking about the phonetics and phonology part, and there is also reason, scientific evidence, because the maturity level or the maturation of our physiological structure, let's say, especially that vocal tract and other things, it has already become mature. As a result, some of the things is very difficult to let's say to learn, especially in the phonetics and phonology level. But in all other levels, adults are also very good second language learners, and we had seen that, you see. And language is not only about speaking thing, there are many other things associated with language. We talked about different types of skills, at least ALS, W, reading, listening, and all. So maybe children are very good at speaking, but let's say writing, they may not be very good at writing, So you'll have to see that, language is not only about one aspect we are talking about. There are many other aspects you'll see. So, and related to this evidence and counter evidence thing, so the whole case, so the Geni's case, I think you are aware of this case, and I think this case is also reported. So before I tell you about this Geni's case, so can just one of you tell me what is this Geni's case I'm talking about? Any idea about Geni's case? Anyone knows about Genie or Geni's case? What happened with Genie? Anyone? The case of Ginny we talk about especially. Okay, so if you are not aware about this Ginny, Ginny's case, so what happened, mainly this is the case reported. Somewhere Ginny's father, I think it's not only about a human, he must be inhuman or whatever, demon, you can say that. This person so barbaric that he could not listen to the voice of, so to say, the child, So what he did, that barbaric father, so after Ginny's birth, so Ginny was tied up on a chair and kept somewhere in an isolated room. And Ginny's mother was only allowed to go inside the room to feed her. So no human interaction as such. Such a horrific case, you can understand, you see. So generally father wants to, daughter or son, whatever for that matter. And this person, so what happened, and this continued, and the mother also could not say anything. And so this barbaric torture, it continued for more than 14 years, 13 or 14 years. And later on, LA authority, Los Angeles authority, they got to know about it, and because of malnutrition, and so Ginny was reported or hospitalized in LA in some hospitals there. So, and what happened, since Ginny did not have any kind of interaction with people, let's say, with the environment and other people. So as a result, Ginny could not learn or could not acquire language. Try to understand. Could not learn or could not acquire language. So because nobody interacted with her. So now try to understand that whole UG also. So in other way, let's say somewhere around, if you talk about bonobo, chimpanzees and gorillas, if they are far away from their parents, definitely they will have certain calls, let's say all those whatever the calls, so they know. But in humans this is not possible. At least you have to have the initial exposure. So the Ginny, at least for 14 or 15 years, could not speak anything. And then it was so she was unable to speak, and she had also very little control over her speech organs, and even if you talk about the comprehension skills, she had very poor comprehension skills, and even she could not respond to simple commands as well, simple commands, whatever the things you say, and whether it's linguistics and non-linguistic commands. So now what happened, once it was reported and linguists and other people got to know about this, especially a child named Ginny. So many people started visiting that hospital, and it was made, especially there's a deliberate attempt to teach Ginny that so to say American English. So the environment now provided, let's say. Now Ginny began to learn language after the critical period. Try to understand this. She tries to learn language after the critical period. So our hypothesis was that after the critical period, language learning or language acquisition device is closed. That's what, if you believe in, somehow, or the maturity already takes place and you cannot have language, So this is what the understanding earlier. So then Ginny was taught American English, and then she started learning English, and somehow we found that the kind of observation we had, so Ginny also had gone the similar kind of phases or similar kind of stages what we are talking about, So all those stages, mostly the stages we talked about, whether it is not babbling mode, not babbling, but let's say cluster simplification for that matter, telegraphic. Cooing gooing will not take place because she is a grown up now, and but somehow if you talk about the cluster simplification, as I already told you, telegraphic stage, holophrastic stages, generalization, all those overgeneralization, at times semantic narrowing and semantic broadening also, but in compared to normal child, Ginny was doing it less, you see. So semantic extensions and overextension, let's say, if I think I gave you example of dog and car, let's say dog maybe any four-legged animal is called dog, but car is only maybe car is my papa's car or daddy's car, so semantic narrowing also taking place, so this whole language acquisition, the way Ginny learned American English and let's say normal child, the way they learn American English, it has been compared, and we had found so far this, so to see that let's say looking at different kind of structure, linguistic structure, let's say in English you have what kind of word order? You have SVO word order. Let's say I eat rice. So is SVO word order in simple declarative sentence, in spontaneous speech, and so whether this SVO word order, whether Ginny and the normal children, yes, Ginny has acquired this word order, yes, and also let's say normal children. Confusion over preposition, as especially in English, if you talk about children, they do have confusion over prepositions. Yes, Ginny had also confusion over the prepositions. Even normal child, they had also kind of confusion over this prepositions. Simplification of consonant clusters. Yes, Ginny has also simplified the consonant clusters, and also the normal children, they had also simplified the consonant clusters. And you see the color terminology and the number words. So if you talk about the color terminology and number words, somehow especially in normal children, we had seen that, especially in American English, the kind of case study what we have, depending on that color terms and number words, mostly it comes little later. But in Ginny's case, the color terminology and the number words, it came little early, you see. And even if you're talking about WH questions, WH questions, as you know, that mainly that why, when, how, what, where, and all that kind of questions you see. So normal children, especially the WH questions, interrogative things come little later. But Ginny's case, she has learned little early, and semantic under and over extensions also, the children, they have also done. Ginny also had done some kind of semantic and extensions, semantic narrowing and broadening, but in compared to normal children, she did less, you see. So the kind of comparison we are trying to do, how Ginny, let's say later on learned or acquired, whatever you see, American English, even normal children, there is not much difference. But if you believe our earlier hypothesis is that somehow the critical period, after critical period language acquisition, LAD, language acquisition device is closed, and the children cannot learn language or cannot acquire language, then so the whole hypothesis now falls flat, because so now what conclusion can be drawn from Ginny's case? So the conclusion is that the normal children language acquisition during critical age, definitely during critical age, normal children, they have learned or acquired the language. Even Ginny has also done it, and Ginny's language acquisition after critical age period, it is also possible. But what happened that people, they try to look at, you see, and especially doing the dichotic listening test. What happened in Ginny's case, mostly what was happening that somehow it's not the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere is taking control. So dichotic listening test suggests that the Ginny uses a right hemisphere for language. So to some extent, this So to say, when you talk about critical period hypothesis, under this critical period hypothesis, there is, let's say, one more thing, as I told you the cerebral plasticity things and all. Somehow it's not the left hemisphere, but right hemisphere is taking control, because dichotic listening test suggests that somehow the genie has uses her right hemisphere for language, okay, and it's not the left hemisphere. And somehow Ginny's language deficits may be attributed to factors. There are different factors. It's not only about language. Try to understand that there are different factors. One factor is social deprivation, emotional trauma, malnutrition. There are many other things, and it is not because of inadequate linguistic experience during the critical period. So there are many other things that are also happening at the same time, you see. So what we can get from Ginny's case is that somehow linguistic skills can develop even after the critical period. So that is our understanding. So linguistic skills can be developed even after the critical period. Okay. So the case of Ginny further complicates the, so to say, the critical period hypothesis issue. So why could she not acquire language like other children or adults? So these are some of the questions, and many people, they ask that why could Ginny she not acquire language like other children or adults? Was it because she was denied all exposure, or because she was denied all care and affection, or because she did not grow cognitively? So there are different kind of questions are being asked, and it's so there are many reasons, as I told you, that it's not only because of critical period, there are many other reasons, and it's not only about language or left hemisphere. There are different reasons for that. So all our senses and mental faculties, for that matter, even if you talk about cognitive faculties, and even those who are somehow remain highly underdeveloped in compared to normal children. So all our senses and mental faculties also remain highly underdeveloped. And this means to some extent, in addition to age, exposure, cognitive growth, care and affection, all are important for language acquisition. Try to understand that. So we do not need to look at that only for critical period. For language acquisition to take place, there are many other factors. So in addition to age, because critical period is talking about age 2 to 14, but if you're talking about language acquisition, so exposure is there, cognitive growth has to be there, and care and affection. So there are many more things, you see, and are important for language acquisition. It's not only about age. So the only conclusion we can draw is that there are no easy answers to the critical period hypothesis. So if you want to have kind of ready-made kind of answer to critical period hypothesis, there is no ready-made answer. There are no easy answers to the critical period hypothesis. It is rather naive or very immature, let's say, to say that the language acquisition capacity suddenly changes after the age of 14. You can't say that. If somebody says that language acquisition process or LAD changes after puberty, you can't say that, exactly, and so Ginny's case is one of the case, and not only Ginny's case, and there are many cases, let's say. Now, critical period hypothesis and what kind of implications we do have, and though critical period hypothesis, it remains a very, very kind of controversial proposal. If you look at these proposals, and I think I have already provided you evidence, counter evidence, not only one evidence or one counter evidences, many counter evidences or many supportive evidences for that matter. So it remains a controversial proposal, you see, and it is indeed true that effortlessness with the children learn language is amazing, and especially whether you believe that hypothesis or not, but somehow children, especially in the initial stage, effortlessly they learn the language. That's what we have so to say, we have seen that. And yet adults often to prove as a good language learners, except perhaps in the area of phonology. And even if you're talking about second language acquisition, even second language learning, adults also, they perform well, except in the area of phonology, as I have already mentioned you, that in the area of pragmatics, in the area of syntax or sociolinguistics, or let's say in the writing part also, adults will definitely perform better than the children, because they know. And even let's say in the etiquette level, if you're talking about social etiquettes and many other things, so they know better. Somehow, let's say this is the online class, it's going on. So I do attend my daughter's class as well. I can understand, the way all the children are talking and doing all the kind of stuff. You see, somebody is dancing, somebody is, let's say, do all that kind of children kind of stuff. So the etiquette part, I think, I'm not saying that children do not have etiquettes. They do have, but at least some of the things, the social etiquettes part, let's say the adults know better, to some extent, you see. And talking about language, learning a different language, you may need different kind of, again, kind of rules for that matter, that kind of customs for a different language, you see. And so I think adults are better in compared to the children, you see. So we are still not able to determine a definite organ in the brain which may correspond to the loss of plasticity of any of the language acquisition processes. So if you say that somehow plasticity of in the brain, loss of plasticity takes place after certain area, certain year for that matter. So which is the area? So we do not know. Even the neurologists, they do not know which area. So it remains a controversial proposal. The critical period hypothesis remains a controversial proposal. Okay, and related to critical period, when this whole idea of critical period, somewhere around, Eric Lenneberg, as I told you, that 1967, the biological foundations of language, that was the time. And universal grammar, UG perspective, the generative grammar perspective, transformational generative grammar perspective. So everybody tried to relate this critical period hypothesis with universal grammar also, that okay, so what kind of link you do have with critical period and, let's say, universal grammar. So the generative grammar approach or universal grammar approach, let's say, to language learning, so it says that critical period refers to the time after which universal grammar, let's say, which is UG, is either not available, not the access to the UG gets restricted to a great extent. So they say that, so they make kind of very smart argument. They say that it's either not available after the critical period. So UG, the kind of principles we talked about, all the principles, if you remember. So the principles of UG is either not available, or the access to the UG gets restricted to a great extent. Maybe it's to some extent restricted. Okay, so this is where smartly UG, universal grammar perspective, related to the critical period. So critical period is the early stage of learning language when direct access to the UG is fully available. So they say that at the time of critical period, so there is a direct access to universal grammar and its principles, whichever the principles we talked about. So there is a direct access if the language learning or the language acquisition is taking place. But after the critical period, there is either UG is not available, or UG has, let's say, kind of restrictions. Okay, and this is the period when learning of language takes place naturally, effectively, and effortlessly. So this is where they say that this is the time, if a language learning is taking place, it will take place naturally, effectively, and effortlessly. Okay, and this is where, related to UG principle, language acquisition, we know that, LAD, language acquisition device, I think I have already discussed, but I won't repeat those things. But we understand that normal human children are designed to acquire a language by birth, so whoever is the child, wherever he is born, he is able to learn or acquire a particular language. So they are born with a unique capacity called language acquisition device, what we call LAT, LAD, or language faculty, LF, language faculty, or human language faculty. So, and LAT appears to have a UG inbuilt in it. So if you talk about the language acquisition device somehow appears to have UG, that the universal grammar inbuilt in it. It is there basically. If you're talking about language, it is already there, you see. So this kind of understanding we do have when you talk about UG and that critical period. So related to critical period and second language learning, I think I already told you related to the critical period and second language learning. So the role of the critical period or certain maturation age doesn't appear to be too significant for the learning of a second language. So generally it doesn't say about second language, but we had seen that and an early beginning makes a difference only in terms of acquisition of pronunciation involving features of segmental and suprasegmental speech. And as I already told you, in the area of phonetics and phonology, especially children, they perform better. But the adults, they may not perform very good, especially in the area of phonetics and phonology, segmental and suprasegmental speech. So the learning of vocabulary, phrases, syntax, and discourses does not seem to cause any problems to adults. But on the other hand, if you're talking about vocabulary, words, phrases, syntax, discourse, for that matter, I already mentioned about pragmatics. So it, don't create that much problems to adults. Only problems to some extent is the phonetics and phonology part. You see, tone, intonation, stress, or maybe some of the sounds, maybe difficult to pronounce, even the stress pattern of a particular language, the tonal thing, intonation, all these things, So it has been argued that adults may be better language learners so far the non-pronunciation aspects are concerned. If you talk about the non-pronunciation aspects, adults are really very good language learners, second language learners. And I think there are many writers, Irish writers, or Indian writers for that matter, they speak different kind of English. But if you talk about the writing skills, many of them, let's say, I know many Irish writers. There are many of them. They have also, let's say, won Nobel Prize, whatever the prize you are talking about, whether it's Booker Prize, Arundhati Roy for that matter, let's say. Let's say when she speaks, whichever the English, but somehow the written part, if you're talking about, it's pretty good. That's what I was saying, that Shashi Tharoor for that matter, even if you listen to Shashi Tharoor speaks very good English, and even his vocabulary, phrases, syntax, and discourse, and even the pragmatics part, pretty good, and so that's what we are talking about. To some extent, adults are also maybe better language learners. So for the non-pronunciation aspects are concerned, you see. And so the role of the critical period, a certain maturation age, does not appear to be too significant for the learning of a second language, So role of the critical period, if you're talking about, this is the critical period, especially in the second language learning, not necessarily the case, the kind of evidence so far what we have. But to some extent, yes, an early beginning makes a difference only in terms of acquisition of pronunciation. Acquisition of pronunciation, as I already told you, and the early beginning, and it's not only that, some people also, even in the adult, let's say they have started learning, you will say that they also get that kind of pronunciation accurately, and the whole system language teaching methods, I'll tell you later on, there are different methods, whether it's communicative methods and another method, mostly immersion method, and not really immersion, only just taking some formulaic sequence. The formulaic sequence, I mean to say that, the kind of daily uses, or some phrases, or some frequently used utterances we do have. So you take Okay, so sorry, this is a problem. Sorry, there was a network connection. There's a problem with. Can you hear me now? Is it audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there is a network problem anyway. So, so that's what I'm saying is that so adults may be better language learners. So for the non-pronunciation aspects are concerned, if you're talking about the non-pronunciation aspects, so adults are also better language learners also. Okay, so now try to compare this critical period in second language learning versus children versus adult. And if you're trying to look at young children, for young children language is essentially a tool for expressing meaning, as I already told you, especially it's language, and they play with the language even if you talk about the young children, and that they do not have not much things to do, except this playing and all other stuff, you see. But adults have many other things to do, and if you're talking about second language learning also, adults, what they do, they also learn the language by studying linguistic rules. So children may take lots of time for that matter, let's say, to learn a particular language, especially during the critical period as well. But adults, let's say, may take less time. If they have plenty of times and they invest or devote plenty of time, learning the second language, they may be better than the young children, you see. And Halliday, I think Halliday 1973, Halliday says that, points out that the young children respond not so much to what language is as what it does. Okay, so basically adults know many more things about language in structure, the grammar, and many other aspects. Okay, and the cognitive development, even if we're talking about, and compared to adult and children, definitely cognitive development of so to say the adults are much more in compared to the children, you see. And they have not developed social attitudes towards the use of the language, social attitudes, the pragmatics factors, as I was talking about, you see. So they do not have that kind of social attitudes, the pragmatics things, pragmatics. I think there is a lecture, I delivered a lecture, pragmatics, the role of context in interpretation. I think it is there. I delivered a lecture in Royal University of Bhutan. So if you are interested, you can get those, and listen to the lecture as well. So what kind of pragmatics we are talking about, the role of context, social things, then etiquettes and all other things. So adults are better, you see. And they're certainly not aware of acquisition, but somehow if we're talking about adults, they're aware of the whole process, and talking about children, yeah, this is natural learning is going on. And in talking about adults, it's not natural learning, it's definitely it's a kind of conscious efforts, consciously they're doing it. And okay, so there are many differences you can make. Maybe you can think about some differences between the way children are learning the language and the way adults are learning languages. You can think about and also, let's say, you can think about your own second language learning, whichever the second language you have learned. I'm sure that in many, at least, let's say there are here we have 30 or 32 students at least joined today. So in my understanding, maybe for at least 5 or 6 of you, English is maybe it's your I won't say native tongue. Let's say it could be native tongue because maybe your parents, they do speak English, and English or Hindi or English or Bangla, together simultaneously, So for you, maybe English can be considered as a native language, and maybe for many of you, let's say you have learned English later phase, let's say during your school school days, or at the time of your college or university, whichever. So think about your own language learning experience, and later on we'll come back to that language learning experience, and also language teaching methods. What kind of methods were employed by the school, by the college, or whatever the institute. So we'll try to make a review of all this later on, but try to think about your own language learning experience, whether it's your mother tongue, the native language. And as I also told you, the native language or mother tongue, the concept is very, very confusing at times. A particular child, maybe he or she knows 3 or 4 languages. Back home, she speaks this, that, or also let's say in the neighborhood, there is another language is spoken. She also speaks that language. And when she goes to school, she also speaks a different language. Let's say either it's Hindi or English, or whichever the state dominant language is there. Maybe Assamese, or maybe Malayalam or Tamil, Telugu. So whichever, so think about it, that kind of perspective, your own perspective, So related to second language learning, one of the researcher, Brown, says that believes that there is acculturation is responsible for second language learning. So acculturation is something like, and he divides this acculturation things into different stages, at least 4 stages. So he says that there is, especially for second language learning, there is you have to have, first of all, to learn a particular language or second language, there are different kind of reasons. And there are different kind of reasons for that matter, and different kind of motivations you may have, integrative motivation, instrumental motivations. Instrumental motivation only to get a certificate, or to get a job or something, so instrumental motivation. Integrative motivation, you want to be a part of the community for that matter, so that people accept you as one of the speakers. That kind of mindset or understanding you to have. So Brown, talks about this acculturation, kind of the whole process, especially for second language learning. So he divides this into 4 stages. So one is initial excitement stage, because you learn Japanese or Hindi or English or Chinese or Arabic, whichever, so that kind of initial excitement stage. And you find it really interesting, this sounds are really, it's fascinated. I'm fascinated by the sounds or songs or whatever, so initial excitement stage. Then he talks about another stage, what he says that culture shock leading to hostility towards the target language. So there is a culture shock, then you get to know that somewhere there is lots of differences between the language, the language and the language you are learning. So as a result, there is a kind of culture shock, because every language is different, whether linguistically if you talk about, non-linguistically if you talk about. So there is a kind of cultural shock at the time of learning the second language. All of us get, So after that shock stage, Brown talks about the stress. What he says that it's really important is a cultural stress. So cultural stress leading to gradual recovery. So after that shock, there is a kind of stress is taking place, and that time maybe the language learner, he's making mistakes, or also trying to correct himself also. If some of the mistakes are committed by him, he's trying to correct himself also. So that kind of cultural stress is also taking place. And if the third phase is over, let's say, and then finally assimilation of the new culture is taking place. Assimilation, let's say you are part and parcel of that particular community, or you become, or let's say you try to speak whichever the language, the second language, so in the way the native speakers they speak, and at least maybe others also they understand you, so So finally, assimilation of the new culture also takes place, you see. So, so for Brown, as I told you, that for Brown, the third stage of cultural stage is really, it's a kind of crucial phase in the language learning. So, and that's what I always tell. Last time I was also telling whoever is the person, and so there are different kind of factors. Either it's a social, there are some social factors, there are some psychological factors, and especially in the psychological level, if you think about for second language learning or teaching, so there are many people, they speak good English or whichever the language, but somehow they say that I don't know how to speak. Maybe I speak wrong English and bad English or whatever, whichever the language, and as a result, they are become so introvert, and they don't let's say commit mistakes also. So you have to commit mistakes. You have to make mistakes. If you do not make mistakes, so then let's say. How do you know whether you are doing right or wrong? But one of the things we always say in academics also, please make mistakes, but do not make the same mistakes again and again. Make mistakes, but if a certain mistake is committed, try to somehow, because somehow we talk about the feedback. Feedback is again one of the characteristics of the design features we talk about. So feedback, we know that, let's say if someone says that he goes to the market, instead of saying he goes to the market, he say he go to the market, then he corrects himself that he goes to the market. So if you do not say it, do not speak, so you don't know, let's say. So that's what that cultural stress, what Brown is saying, that this is really important, this is really crucial. So that will finally lead to kind of assimilation of the new culture. Okay. So related to this, again, second language learning literature. So another person, Neufeld. Neufeld is Neufeld. Neufeld. So talks about the kind of young and adult learning second language, and for him, learning of language has two levels. Neufeld, it talks about that there are two levels. One level is the primary levels, and another level is the secondary levels. So the primary levels includes elements something like the functional category, phonetics, and syntax. Mainly functional category, phonetics, and syntax. So all learners acquire primary level with inbuilt capacity. And the secondary level includes different styles. So that is where little bit different, difficult when you talk about the pragmatics part, the social aspect, and there are many other things you see. And that is where it is very difficult also to learn that stage, and the secondary level. So for the purpose of second language learning, Neufeld does not hold age as a factor at all. So in the second language learning, what we are talking about, that critical period also, that 14 years till puberty. So Neufeld that, yeah, age is not the particular criterion for that matter if you're talking about learning second language. So anybody can learn any language, whether he is 20 years or 7 years or 8 years or 60 years or 80 years. It's a matter of your motivation. It's matter of your interest also. And so there are many people, they have learned X language or Y language later, in the later phase in their life also. I know a person, after retirement, she was an IAS officer, and she came to a center, and one of the scientists, DRDO scientist, and then what she did, so she came to a center, and she, after her retirement, after 60 years, can you believe that she came to the department and she pursued, she learned linguistics. She used to sit in MA classes as well, and she did PhD from our center. Can you believe that? And many of us, let's say, do not have that kind of interest or whatever. So that's what I'm saying. So age is not the particular criteria. So there are different other factors. So this is really interesting, and especially in the critical period hypothesis, talking about that. So in our understanding, especially language faculty and universal grammar, if you're talking about related to critical period. So we'll say that language faculty is not lost at any point in maturation, even after the critical period. So earlier we are saying that universal grammar, the kind of understanding is that to some extent in UG is not accessible, fully accessible, or some kind of restraints in the UG. It's not necessarily the case, you see, and so in our understanding, the language faculty is not lost at any point in maturation, even after the critical period. So language faculty is very much there. So we do not find any agreement among researchers on the role of critical period and overall learning of language. So if you talk about critical period and the kind of consensus among the researcher that what is this and what is that, you will find that it is, so there is no such consensus. And so this leads us to explore the probability of more than one type of critical period of different language skills. So if this is the case, then maybe we can propose or hypothesize that maybe there are different kind of critical period, and for different kind of language skills with different types of changes at different ages. So if you say that age is the criteria, yes, let's say for time being, believe that age is the criteria. So it is not only for this, but for different kind of language skills. So one of the language skills, let's say phonetics and phonology we talked about. So maybe to some extent you can say that yes, after puberty, phonetics and phonology cannot be learned or acquired the way the children they learn. To some extent, the researchers they will come to that conclusion that yes, to some extent it is right. So more recent studies show that except in the case of phonology, adults may be better learners of syntax, morphology, pragmatics, and also the social linguistics aspects of the language. Okay, and even the adults, they get suitable environment, as I told you that, and so they may also perform better in compared to the young children. Okay, so what is happening is that especially why is this phonetics and phonology, as I'm talking about, the reason for this phonetics and phonology is that the reason why the learning of pronunciation becomes difficult after a point of maturation lies in humans' physiology. I think I already told you, human physiology, I'm talking about the vocal tract, So the conditioning of the vocal tract takes place very early while learning language. I told you, even we talked about the first language acquisition, the kind of distinction we talked about. So humans, especially babies, somewhere around 1.5 years, this is the time. If you just tell them, or they can pronounce any sound in the languages of the world, whichever the languages you are talking about, whether it's pulmonic or non-pulmonic, aggressive, click sound, or whatever the sounds. But especially, let's say, adults will have difficulty because the conditioning of the vocal tract takes place very early while learning a language. The conditioning has already taken place for us, let's say. So the difficulty in attaining native-like pronunciation can therefore be purely attributed to physical constraints. So difficulty to, let's say, in attaining native-like pronunciation can attribute it to physical constraints of difficulty in the movement of muscle, jaw, and tongue. So it's a kind of physical kind of constraints of difficulty, So this is where the kind of understanding, I think you have, let's say, if you listen to me, heard me today, so we understood somewhere the critical period. So mainly when you talk about critical period, we're talking about the age. So the age, so beginning, let's say somewhere beginning to years of puberty, and critical period, especially language area, phonetics and phonology, it is very difficult after that period, especially if you're talking about the adults, because of the physiology, the kind of constraints, restraints I just simply talked about. Constraints for grammar also, critical period for constraints of grammar, not so much. There is not constraints. We haven't seen that much constraints because adults they are perform better if you comparing with the young child and all. So rate of learning versus fluency, to some extent, both the things you see, adults can do better, in compared to young children. So it has been observed that adult learners proceed faster than the child learners at the beginning stages of L2 acquisition, especially language. L2 acquisition we are talking about, especially the second language here, and because the conscious cognitive strategies or abilities the adults they do have. Okay, so these are some of the things when you talk about the critical period and first language and second language you see. So I think today briefly I talked about what is critical period and what is critical period hypothesis, and I gave you the kind of supportive evidence in favor of critical period. So the cerebral plasticity I talked about, and then even another argument for critical period, the hypothesis. So young children are also good second language learners. I talked about that. Why is this so? And also try to provide you counter evidence. So the counter evidence, the hemispherectomy, so removal of especially the left hemisphere at the age of five months, and then what happened. Also presented case of dichotic listening to you, and I think so. This all are counter evidence, and also one of the counter evidence is that adults are good language learners. And it's not because of critical period. Okay, so we also discussed about, I think, the case of Ginny today, and as a result, what happened, and so also try to compare between normal children's language acquisition, and Ginny's acquisition. That's things also we try to do, and what kind of conclusion we can draw from this Ginny's case. Also, I discussed about that part, and also the critical period, as well as when you're talking about the grammar part, let's say universal grammar. So, and okay, so these are some of the things and critical period and its role. So in general, I try to talk about today in the class. Okay, so I think that's all for today. And if you have anything to add, I think you have only 5 minutes. So please go ahead, and you can raise your hand or just simply unmute yourself and just go ahead. Okay. Okay, so far I think there is no question, no doubts. Siddharth is saying, sir, I read about Ginny, but I was, sorry, let me just check it. Where is it? The chat. Where is it? Not able to find the chat option. Where is it gone? Let me just find it. Okay. Okay, got it. But I was not in the notion that the case of Ginny holds. Okay. Okay, so in compare, so Ginny's case, see, it's a confusing case. In the both cases, the next hypothesis, what happened in the left hemisphere support, as we are talking about. So Ginny's case, the dichotic listening proves that it was basically the right hemisphere was taking over, especially in the normal children. If you're talking about in the normal children, it is the left hemisphere. But in Ginny's case, so language, the lateralization process, which was in the left hemisphere, it was in the right hemisphere. Okay, so this is the kind of kind of the counter arguments, so to say, so this is one of the things. And so it creates lots of confusion basically. So Ginny's case is provided not only as evidence, try to understand, Ginny's case provides evidence as well as counter evidence, both for this, so to say, critical period hypothesis. Okay. And that's what Sobina, I think you wanted to ask something. Sobina, just if you listen, can you? I couldn't, because your internet connection was bad that time. I couldn't hear you. Sobina, are you listening?
Yes, sir, I'm listening. Sir, yesterday I heard something like you telling there is a stage between 9 to 12 month. Like maybe I heard something wrong, but is there any stage like after babbling stage?
Achha, you were asking that after babbling stage.
After babbling and holofrastic, is there any stage in between that?
No. See, so I was talking about the babbling stage, and after babbling stage, that stage is not basically, we do not name that particular stage, but somewhere 9 to 12 months. So what happened that children will more kind of babbling will take place more, earlier it is maybe mama, dada. Now let's say kind of repetition of the babbling more. So there is a recognizable intonational patterns to the consonants and vowel combinations, and mum, da, papa, more and more, and so and maybe to some extent children, they may kind of the words or the babbling, whatever they are doing, but they do not have any idea what they are saying. Okay, so we do not name that particular stage, but somewhere in some books you may find that 9 to 12 months they may categorize, and some of the characteristics of that particular what do you call months, 9 to 12 months. So in that case I'm talking about, but we do not name it. It's a kind of particular the way you say the babbling stage, telegraphic stage. Okay, Sabina?
Yes, sir.